Hey guys, today I'm excited to give you my spoiler-free thoughts on Haunted Mansion. Listen, I went into this movie just expecting fun and hoping, among hope, that it was better than the previous version. From what I saw in the trailers, I was very excited. Seems like there's a lot of Easter eggs, and it's really, truly embracing the ride, the Disney World and Disneyland ride, but still giving us a different story, a good story. And well, that's exactly what I got. So I had a lot of fun with this movie. As someone who is a big fan of the ride, there are so many Easter eggs, references, literal feels like you're in the Haunted Mansion, like scenes, right? Rooms that look like they're ripped from the ride. There's so much of that in here that any fan of the ride is at least going to be grinning from ear to ear, like a grim grinning ghost. Get it? As they see all of these things pop up in the movie, okay? Now, the film itself is 2 hours long. It features Rosario Dawson as Gabby, and she has her little son Travis, who's so cute, by the way. He's 9, and they move into this house, and they quickly realize it is haunted. And they do not waste any time showing us that this house is haunted. They waste no time in this film, which is great. It's good because it keeps things moving along. And she ends up collecting this whole group of people basically to come in and try to help her get rid of the ghosts, right? I mean, she's living in a haunted house. She wants them to leave, okay? So she gets this guy who's very, very smart. He has built this camera that can see the dead. He has his own backstory. His name's Ben, played by Lakeith. Oh my gosh, Lakeith Stanfield. He's so good in this. He's so good. He's probably him and Rosario are the standouts for me. I love Lakeith in this. I think he's fantastic. So we have him. That's Ben, right? He's able to take pictures with this camera. He's very, very smart that he built this thing that can take pictures of ghosts. Then you have Father Kent, who is there to perform, an exorcism of sorts if needed. And that is, he's played by Owen Wilson, who's also fantastic. Tiffany Haddish plays this medium. I believe her name was Harriet. And then Danny DeVito plays a professor named Bruce. And you just have all these people crammed in this house doing what they can, trying to figure out why it's haunted, how to get the ghosts to leave, tracking things down, really discovering the lore behind this house, so to speak, which is very interesting. It's funny at times. It's scary. I mean, listen, this movie is rated PG-13 and it leans into the scary side of it. I wouldn't say it pushes the boundaries, right? But it's definitely rated PG-13 because of the scary stuff. There's no bad words in this. I think son of a gun is like the worst that you get. So the PG-13 rating definitely comes from just how spooky it is, because it is intense. There are jump scares. There are moments where I jumped. There are moments where you're really on the edge of your seat in suspense and it's intense and things are happening. But there's a lot of funny stuff in here too, which I think really helps move things along. It helps with the pacing. I mean, this movie is 2 hours long. I think it's technically 2 hours and 1 minute, but it's a long-ish movie. So you need things to keep happening to keep the pace moving along. So the pace moves quickly. It never drags, which I thought was great. And it weaves in really, really funny moments, like laugh out loud funny moments, with jump scare scary moments. Now, I will say not all of the jokes landed for me, and that's in particular to those that really came out of Owen Wilson's mouth. And while some of them absolutely land and work, just so much of what he says feels awkward, and the timing just wasn't right for me, the comedic timing. And I really hated that because I do love him, and I don't think it's his fault. I think it's got something to do with just the scene or the writing, or I'm not sure. So I really don't think it's him. I think he really put into this as best as he could. It's really the timing of these jokes, so maybe part of the editing. I'm not sure, but I'd say probably half of his jokes landed for me, half of them didn't. When it comes to the story, though, the overall story and plot, listen, I had stuff figured out so early on. Several beats of this, I knew I had it figured out. Of course, there's like one big reveal type moment, which you don't know. There's no way you would know or predict it. But a lot of other stuff, like I figured it out. It didn't make it any less fun, though. Like certain lines, as soon as things were mentioned, I was like, oh, that's blah, 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 blah. And yes, it played out that way, but so what? Who cares? I still had an absolute blast, okay? And the second Madame Leota shows up, Jamie Lee Curtis, phenomenal. She's so great in this. She really leans into this. I mean, she's such a great actress in general. She really leans into this role. And probably one of my biggest complaints with this movie is that we didn't get enough of her. And that's not to say, I mean, listen, she has her moments to shine. This is a huge ensemble cast, and you need to give everyone their moment. And she has her moment. She's just so good in this it takes a while until we see her, and I would have liked to see her a little bit earlier on, and I just would have loved more of her, but like that's not a bad complaint, because I can see how really it wouldn't have made sense to include her much more than they did. I just thought she was great, and I would have loved more. Someone else I felt like was a little underused is Danny DeVito. I think he's great. He's funny. He's hilarious. I love the moments that he got. I just wish we got a little bit more. He kind of shows up, then he's gone for a little bit, and then he comes back, and I kind of missed him after we had first been introduced to him, and then I didn't see him, right? I actually missed that character, and I wish he had been a part of some of those moments. Again, I understand why he wasn't. However, I do wish he was. I definitely, who doesn't need more Danny DeVito in their lives, right? Like, he's so great. So that was kind of a issue I had. Overall, the CGI in this movie is pretty good. There's some moments where it's a little wonky for me. There's one scene where they're going through some trees that in particular really didn't work for me. It felt more silly than scary, just because of how the trees looked. But listen, the most important thing is that the ghosts were pulled off here. With the CGI wise, that Madame Leota is pulled off CGI wise, in her crystal ball. Like, that's the most important stuff. That's what makes this movie believable. That's what makes this movie entertaining. That's what lets you stay in the moment in this movie rather than pulling you out. And that stuff worked great. So there's a few little wonky things here and there, but you know what? Whatever. It didn't stick with me. It didn't ruin the movie for me. I just feel like I had to mention it. Then we've got the Hatbox Ghost. It's Jared Leto. Like, come on, the stuff surrounding him is so great. He's so scary, so spooky, intense. He's scary. He's scary, which is what he's supposed to be. For me, he's scary until he's not scary, right? They start to show him too much towards the end, where it felt like, they always say it's monster movies are successful and they work well when they don't show you the monster that much. And that's not to say he's not spooky, and I don't love how the story plays out and how it ends up. But it was almost a little too much of him towards the end that it made him not as scary, not as intense. For me, anyway. For kids, like, I brought my daughter who was 10, and there were moments she was huddled up like this. She was a little scared. She was a little nervous. She absolutely loved the movie, and she had a lot of fun with it. But there are some jump scares. There are some scary moments. And that being said, there are also some really, really heavy themes here. These are themes of grief and loss and death, and it gets intense and emotional. I mean, there are times where you're like, ooh, that was a little bit of a gut punch. I teared up. I didn't cry, but I teared up a little bit at one moment. Even though I saw it coming a mile away, it's still teared up a little bit. But this movie is fun, and it's entertaining, and it takes you on a journey, takes you on a ride. No pun intended, or pun intended. But it's filled with Easter eggs and references and scenes that feel ripped right out of the ride, which, as someone who loves the attraction at the theme parks, this was an exciting film for me. And I think it wasn't just, we're just going to throw a bunch of Easter eggs and stuff and then blah, there you go. Figure it out. We'll kind of throw some kind of plot in here. There actually is a good plot and a good story. It's good. It's not great. It's not mind-blowing. It's not anything we haven't seen before, but it's good and it's entertaining. And they take the lore of the Haunted Mansion and work it through this story well. Let's put it that way. So, you obviously have people who show up that you see in the ride, right? Like, of course, Madame Leota, and then you've got the bride, Constance, right? She's great. I loved her moments in here. So, and then other characters like, as you're going through the graveyard on the ride, there's all these different characters and ghosts that are there playing. And of course, you see a lot of them as well. So it's just fun to get that sort of stuff in here, while also still telling a story that feels unique to what we've seen in the ride before. So overall, I really had fun with this movie. I enjoyed it. Yes, I have issues. Yes, I don't think it's perfect, but I had fun. And I think it's a great summer film. It's family friendly enough where you can go with the whole family and enjoy it, or go with a group of your friends that you go to the Disney parks with and go see this movie. It's really, really good. Really, really entertaining. And I had a lot of fun with it. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I just wanted a little more Danny DeVito and Jamie Lee Curtis, and I would have been like top tier for me. But yeah, you guys let me know if you're excited for Haunted Mansion down below in the comments. It hits theaters this Friday, July 28th. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more videos like this one. Follow me over on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Check me out at MamasGeeky.com. And yeah, if by the time you got to this review you've already seen Haunted Mansion, let me know what you thought about it.